Hi everyone, and welcome back to the virtual classroom where we look, listen and learn together. We have looked at an interesting type of cone. These pine cones. We've looked at some of their shapes and their sizes and their colours. And I went on another walk today and I found something a bit different. It wasn't a cone like this one. It was a bit different to this cone. It was actually a cone like this. Oh, can you see this cone here? Wow, it's very interesting, this one. This cone is from a conifer as well, from a pine tree as well, but it's actually the male pine cone. And this male pine cone is quite sort of small compared to the female pine cone. And it has little grains in it. Can you see those tiny little grains in there? And they have the yellow pollen on them. I have some more here, and they're actually very, very fragile and very, very delicate. Can you see that one? This one has sort of opened and released. It's actually released most of its pollen. So this pollen is released by these cones. They're a different cone to this one though, aren't they? And they actually help to fertilize the female pine cone so that the seed can grow inside. You see how that's enclosed like that? And it takes a long time for these cones to grow. And you can see I've found even some like this that have been fertilized. And they're still tiny. They're tiny, tiny, tiny little ones on there. There are two on this branch here. Here's another one. And you can see the needle-like leaves here. And they actually help to preserve a lot of the water in those dry months because they don't lose water from their leaves. They have some tiny pine cones. And there was even this little one that had fallen off a tree and it hadn't reached its full size yet. And these pine cones all come from a type of plant called the gymnosperm. And the gymnosperm date back to the dinosaur times. And that's a prehistoric time in the world where big dinosaurs were all around the environment. And some dinosaurs actually used to eat these. And there are actually animals that still eat these pine cones. What has happened to these? That's very interesting. These ones have been demolished, or semi-demolished. They've been eaten by something. And it's a type of bird with quite a big beak, quite a big hook beak. Yeah, that's a cockatoo that's eaten these ones. You can see there how they've started to nibble and tried to get inside to where the seeds are in there. And they might have even got some of the seeds because I can see some little indents in here along there. And so now we've talked about the male pine cone and the female pine cone. And maybe when you go outside, you could have a look around for the male tree or the female tree, and sometimes these might be on the same tree. They might be growing on the same tree, but other times they grow on separate trees. Maybe we could do a painting of these type of cones. They're a little bit different, aren't they? I have my book here, and I have my paints, and I have the water as well. And I dip my brush in and get my book And I might turn my book actually up this way, up the portrait way, so that I can draw it quite big in this space. So I have one here that I've got to hold very, very carefully. And it's sort of like a candle, like that. You see, it's sort of like a candle, burning bright. And it has little curves where all those grains are for all that pollen. And they go up, up, and you can add them in where you would like. Practicing these curved shapes. They're sort of like a frown shape. Or mountains, they look a little bit like mountains. And they're covered in that yellow, dusty, it's a dusty like pollen. And through the wind, that pollen is spread to the other pine trees, where the bigger cones are growing the seeds and protecting the seeds. Those cones have a very important job, don't they? And what colour do you think I would use for this pine cone? Yeah, I think you're right. I think a yellow colour would be good. So I'm going to dip my brush in the yellow paint that I have, this watercolour paint that I'm using today. And I'm going to very carefully dab my picture. And you can see the texture is smudging a little bit, but that's okay. You could use a black pencil or a brown pencil, or maybe even a silver pencil to create your outline. But I've used this black pen today. And remember to dip your brush in the paint once you've run out of the paint, so that you make sure you get enough colour on there. But we don't want too much water, because if you have too much water, do you know what happens? Yeah, it starts to run. So we'll just colour that in. It's starting to look a little bit like this cone here, this pollen covered cone. And I wonder what it would look like when you walk past. Do you think there'd be some sort of yellow dust in the air? Maybe when the pollen is being released from this cone? It could be. Beautiful golden pine cone. You might even have some gold paint at home that you might like to use, or even some yellow food dye in your cupboard. There it is. You can see the shape of that cone there. Can you see how it's similar to what it looks like? Maybe you can give that a go and think about this yellow dusty pollen that's on this pine cone here, and maybe about those cockatoos that were coming to get this one when it was growing. And then one that's actually being formed. So you can think about the process of all of these pine cones. And if you'd like to, you might even like to draw the branch that it was sitting on, and all of those spiky needles that are on there too. Maybe with some bright green, you might even like to paint some of those needles that it's sitting on, and even the stem here, or the branch. It's an interesting shape, and it's an interesting process that happens in nature. Don't you give it a go at home. Think about all the different forms that pine cones or cones come in. Remember, there are lots of different shapes and sizes that cones come in, and there are lots of different types of conifers that grow different types of pine cones too. Maybe you could do some research of your own at home. Happy searching. I'll see you next time. Bye.